afternoon, everyone. How are you doing today? Good. I see a lot of familiar faces. We're so glad to have you at our very first Transcend Program research seminar. Mark your calendar to be doing this the second Thursday of every month for the whole year at 3 o'clock. So we're really excited to have Dr. Hinde speak with us. So at ASU, she investigates food, medicine, and signal of mother's milk. In addition to dozens of peer-reviewed journal articles, and book chapters, Dr. Hinde co-edited Building Babies Primate Developmental Trajectories, Approximate and Ultimate Perspective Documents. Released in Springer in 2013, she's an associate professor, associate editor and writer for Splash, Milk Science Update, executive council member for the International Society for Research in Human Milk and Lactation, and showcases research on mother's milk, breastfeeding, and lactation to the general public, clinicians, and researchers at her blog, Mammal Stuff Milk. So go ahead and check that out. Dr. Hinde came to ASU from an assistant professorship in human evolutionary biology at Harvard University. She received her PhD in anthropology from UCLA and conducted her postdoctoral research at the Brain, Mind, and Behavior Unit at UCLA. So please welcome Dr. Hinde.
Thank you so much. It's a real honor to be here and be an inaugural speaker in this series. I also, let's do a quick survey of the audience. How many people in the audience are faculty? And how many people in the audience are master's students? And how many people in the audience are undergraduates? Excellent. All right. So, dramatically, as we swing into midterm election season, what this means is because the majority of the audience is undergraduates, I want you to ask any questions you have while I'm doing your talk. Almost all of my work that I'm going to be presenting here today has been published. I already said I did over the articles, so you don't even have to get to the end, right? Our goal here is to be collaborators in learning and have fun time. Ask any questions that occur to you, and I'm happy to pause and answer. It'll be much more interesting and dynamic for all of us to do that. That also, of course, applies to master's students and faculty, but there's kind of a hybrid between a seminar lecture and a classroom. So please have a kindness of sharing your questions with the other colleagues that are. When you have a question, the probability that somebody else has that question is really, really high. So every time you ask a question to improve your understanding, you're generously improving your understanding. I'm going to talk to you today about working through tradeoffs in the context of the mother and the dyad. I do a lot of my research in humans, but I also work in animal models, talk more about the monkeys and the way they work. And the reason I do that is because I'm really, really interested in how natural selection has shaped organism function. And I'm particularly interested in how life is organized for complex social systems. And humans are arguably one of the most complex and interesting species to study. We cooperate in ways unseen in the animal kingdom. And we have rich cultural practices that shape how we navigate our lives. That, of course, makes it very, very difficult for us to do studies. Because our cultural technologies have afforded lots of different as you know, what people eat, how they get their food, how they navigate all of this highly variable across populations and within populations. And so you start to need really, really, really large sample sizes in order to understand lots of populations and subclasses. So I turned to research they share a lot of features. They have a lot of personalities. They have low developing young, at least one at a time. And as we look at lactation in both of these species, using the research to understand a little bit more about control of this is my really ambitious outline for my talk. I can assure you we are not going to get all of it, but I want to focus on life history theory and something that is not commonly discussed. How many people here have heard of life difference theory? I'm really glad I asked that. I'm going to talk about the ways in which where an individual is at in their reproductive career, what we say ancestrality, reproductive career, and an individual at the beginning, or the middle, or towards the end, human women as they approach menopause. We'll talk about differences across that lifespan. I've done work on the fact that the mammary gland synthesizes a biological recipe of milk that's different for sons and daughters. You know, that's not it. I'm going to talk about the ways in which that milk and nutrition, when we think about adults, actually here's a probably really good nutrition program. So in anthropology, where I did most of my training, when people think about nutrition, they think about growth, or tissue building, or tissue remodeling. They think about the physical being. But nutrition also fuels the behavior. And this becomes really, really important in early life because it's that behavioral experience that shapes neurodevelopment in mammalian babies. So milk isn't just building the baby's body, it's fueling the baby's behavior, and that in turn is shaping the baby's brain. We'll talk about that a bit. And then I'm going to talk about microbiome and other things in the culture. Everything tells us that, so whether I say it at you, read it around, give it information. Let's start doing this. So, this is going to be a quick and dirty summary of everything you need to know to understand what life history is all about. If you pay attention to the other part of the talk, pay attention to the next three spots. Biological organisms have been shaped by natural selection to perform a set of biological imperatives. And whatever resources are available in the world, those are limited. So the amount of walnuts that are ripe by tree, or toucans, a lot of walnuts that are on a tree where there are that's going to be feeding the area. We have a limited amount of walnuts. Let's imagine you are a panda in the western forests of China, and you are surrounded by pandas. Right? Like, there is plenty of pandas. Panda is not limited in your ecosystem, right? But your ability to chew it and digest it and absorb energy from it is finite. So there's finite limitations in terms of what's available, or in how it wants and how able you are to metabolically process it, or both. Also, fun fact, pandas are terrible at digesting cellulose, which is they eat and survive action constantly, and they have to eat 37 times a day on average. Fun fact. All right, so we can just all get on board that there's a finite amount of resources. And with those finite amount of resources, you have to allocate it across these different biological imperatives. So just like I can only spend $1 once, you can only burn a calorie once. When you burn a calorie over here, it's no longer available to this over here. So what you see is the number one thing for most of the life, talking about a mammal or a bird, actually, come back to is maintenance. This is immune functions, cellular processes of repair. For animals that are warm-blooded, the ability to burn energy at body temperature, where you need it to eat. This is not a complete list. This goes on and on and on and on. But it can be summarized very simply as staying alive. The physiological processes of staying alive. So when you have only a few resources in the world, your number one priority is staying alive. During early life, you see a prioritization to prioritizing reproduction. And this is the effort toward mating and parenting, and not what that particular species does. Okay? And if you are a species that's big enough to be able to do this, right, so there's variation of what species do it, but there is a capacity to put some calories in the bank. You can, somatic insurance, much more flattering of a term than fat. That's why somatic insurance. And what this means is that you store it on your body. And then, if the limiting resources in the environment are shrinking, going into winter, what you can do is you can mobilize what's in your storage to sustain these other efforts. This is when you're in negative energy balance, you'll mobilize and store fat in order to sustain other physiological functions. Now, storage it's not free. When you carry around that extra weight, it's more energy to locomote and move around the world. And so it comes with a cost, but it's also really nice to have that for a rainy day, or in other words, like a great family. Now, when we're talking, I'm going to be talking about babies. And for babies, their limiting resource in the world is the milk their mothers are satisfying. And so they rely on mother's milk to maintain their life, to fund their growth and development, and, as we see in all the actions of little children and babies, to help sustain storage for them. It becomes really important. Storage becomes really important when an individual gets sick. When you get sick, your energy needs to increase. And so, what's one of the first things that happens when you catch a virus? Your temperature goes up, right? Because viruses have been, they do better at your typical body temperature. They evolve to your typical body temperature, and a counter strategy for the body as a host of the virus is to increase the temperature, slow down replication, so that your immune system can get ahead of it. Raising body temperature is energetically expensive. So, and what's something else that happens when you get sick? Do I go about partying? Do I go to the club and dancing? So, knocking on doors when you do, making sure people are registered to vote? Is you're active? No. You have the psychoneuroendocrine effect known as sickness behavior. You get less active. You get less extroverted. You spend time curled up on your couch, then watching Netflix, right? And that's because it takes a ton of energy for watching a immune response, and you don't want to be allocated yourself. And so part of that, you're in a natural ecology as an animal. They don't have Netflix. They can't order food because they're asked to do it a long time. They get sick, they don't have good appetite, and their food intake is bad. And that's when you see them really rely on their energy source to get them through that gap of the nutritional energy. So, what is mother's milk? It is thousands of things. Mother's milk has nutrients, so fats, proteins, sugars, simple sugars, complex sugars. It has minerals and vitamins, and we tend to think of milk as food. And that's because as adults, when we encounter milk, for the most part, unless we get all the breastfeed, or have something else going on in our reality, milk in this area. But it's an adaptation that's been shaped by nearly 300 million years ago. So it has immune factors that are present. It provides adaptive immunity for infants before their own immune systems have developed. So it provides an immunological umbrella. We know that once alive, it contains microbes. We know that milk has living stem cells pregnant, the fetus sends its own cells into the mother's body. She ends up having her baby cells in her brain and all in her body. Do you guys know that? Mothers are chimeras. They have their genetic material and the genetic material of their offspring. And that's because pluripotent stem cells cross from the fetus, off the placenta, and get into maternal circulation. But mothers return that favor after the baby's born through breast milk. So babies have their mother cells through breast milk. It means, it's a kind of depression. It means that if you're breastfed and you need an organ transplant, your body is less likely to reject the organ of a maternal relative. You are what you eat. So, it can be a source of safe water, assuming that your water is not sociopolitically contaminated with things like lead, or uranium here on that foundation. So mother's milk is, as an introduction, food, medicine, and signal. All you have to keep in mind, mother's milk has hormones, has glucocorticoids, it has leptin, adiponectin, ghrelin, growth factor hormones. And mammalian babies don't have stomach acidity the way adults do. Their stomachs do not denature proteins the exact same way that adults do. And so what you have is hormones are able to pass with bioactivity from the mother's mammary gland into the intestinal tract. Those hormones cross the intestinal tract and go into the intestinal circulation and then reach their tissues, including their brain. So people have radiolabeled glucocorticoids, cortisol, and they followed it from the mother into her tongue, into the baby, into the baby. So that's what we mean by saying that mother's milk is sick milk. Because it's binding to receptors in the baby, hormones of maternal origin bind to receptors in the baby. Now, if we look at the research efforts that have been put toward milk, what you'll find is that it is very, very little. How many of you have ever done a PubMed search? If you have. Do you guys know what PubMed is? Not your question. I didn't know until I was 15 when I read this paper. So PubMed, I was looking at PubMed that has all this information. PubMed is maintained by the National Library at the National Institutes of Health. It's funded by Congress. And they basically are creating an archive of all of the English language biomedical scientific knowledge in the world. That's what this tells us in the English language. How much research effort goes into different topics. You can go and you can all sorts of keywords and start seeing how much research effort we put towards some measles. Chocolate, coffee, or tea. But I was listening, and what you see is there is many orders of magnitude more research into pregnancy than there is into lactation, breast milk, or breast milk compensation. And it gets angry. Actually, this is a publication figure, and the editor wrote to me and was like, I'm really sorry, my team in our office go under figure. I'm like, yeah, that was me. They're like, you were watching that, I saw the publication, I'm like, yeah, I do. I'm really angry. People need to know that we talk all the time about how we need a healthy start in life, how we need good nutrition, how we need to do all these things about navigating our world in order to maximize our health outcomes, and yet the research efforts put toward this early life period is insufficient to provide the evidence for clinicians to be able to give effective advice to their patients, to shape all sorts of public policy and health outcomes. Lots of research into pregnancy. One what we know is the best for students. These are wondering, these are priorities are set by Congress. You guys know that? You know that? You know that? Science is political. Everything is political. The amount of funding for the National Institute of Health, the National Science Foundation, the major research institutions in the United States, those budgets are approved by Congress. They have scientists, Collins. They have Francis Collins coming, and they're like, we think you should be spending more money on this, or this, or this. And maternal child health has not been a top priority. It is because of the different elected Congress. All right. What we know about milk is oftentimes in the dairy industry. We know about the superfunction of dairy in terms of cow udder. We know about the dysfunction of dairy. We know a lot about breast cancer. A lot about breast cancer. 1 in 8 women in the United States will develop breast cancer at some point in their lives. And 1 in 200 men. And men also have mammary tissue. Because the mammary tissue lays down during early development, feel like more sexual differentiation. So they make some mammary tissue. But 9 out of 10 women around the world will have a baby at some point in their life. 130 million babies are born each year, and most of the mortality is going to happen when milk can do the most to help protect their growth development. Oh, anybody that's paying attention to the news is aware that about once a week there's some big brouhaha in the cultural lobby wars that's pitting formula feeders against breast milk feeders. That's it. And so many moms are using the kind of combination. Now, what I'm going to be telling you for the rest of my talk is really going to be about the ways in which milk varies. It varies from species to species, within humans. Aspects of milk vary from population to population around the world. Are they have to do with what the people are eating in their population? It varies across mothers within populations. It varies. It varies within mother, from baby to baby. The mother will make something different milk on her first kid than on their second kid. Within babies, it varies from month to month. There's a pattern to milk intake across lactation that varies. It varies across the day. You guys are familiar with the circadian rhythm, right? That your HPA activates in the morning, help wake you up and bridge your day. Varies depending on when you last eat. The decline means you can help you get tired of sleep. This is circadian rhythm. The circadian rhythm, a marker is cortisol. Mother's milk has a circadian rhythm. Morning milk is higher in cortisol, and evening milk is lower in cortisol. So, does it have a circadian rhythm? Babies. We don't really understand entirely how babies' circadian rhythm comes online. We don't know if it's guided or supported by receiving a circadian rhythm via milk from their mother. It's in that tiny bar graph that haven't been studied. It's in the papers that haven't been studied. And there are hormones in formula for okay. The actual function of mother's milk, the behavioral biology of lactation is shaped by nearly 300 million years of evolution, is what we understand the least. This is what I work on. In order to do my research, I actively read and use research tools from numerous fields. I have my degree in anthropology, I did training in animal behavior, I did training in psychology, I did training in psychology, I did training in biology and health, and I have to do a lot of chemistry in our lab where we measure baby milk. We measure immune function in babies and immune molecules in milk. I do neuroimaging to understand how milk shapes neural development. It's required in the phase 2 program, right? Yeah, good. It's a very useful tool. Nutrition, medicine, physiology, feminist theory, religious studies, and higher culture. Mother's milk care effects across all of these fields. So read widely and read often. We're not getting this. Sorry. Okay, spoiler alert. Milk's complicated. What I'm going to talk to you about is really complicated. There were times that I thought, oh, we understand things, and then we get like 5 new years from now, and we're like, maybe we don't. Maybe we don't. That's absolutely key. So part of what makes it complicated is that natural selection has shaped mothers and how they synthesize milk. But natural selection has also shaped babies and how they absorb and use the milk. So the adaptations for digestion, assimilation, and metabolism are operating in the baby. And the adaptations for milk synthesis are operating in the mom. And moms and babies are definitely coordinated. They definitely have a lot of overlap with what they want to have, but it's not identical. Because mothers have different registered tradeoffs and priorities for themselves and for the baby. And the baby has its own registered tradeoffs and priorities for itself, as well as for the mother. Now, that's because of something called parent-offspring conflict. Have anybody ever encountered the term parent-offspring conflict? How many people here have kids? Does anybody here have kids? All right, cool. Has anybody, now if you breastfed and you went through the weaning process, was your baby like, oh, that's cool, I'm done, I don't need that? Or did you encounter weaning tantrums? Anybody encounter weaning tantrums? Yeah. So that's when the baby's crying and wants milk. And is advocating for what it wants. And there's a divergence from what the parent wants. This is what we're talking about with parent offspring. That there's going to be differences in how many resources a baby is adapted to want and how many resources a parent is adapted to provide. I'll send an essay about unpacking this a lot more. Alright, I'm going to talk about it. Here's what I'm saying. Babies are 100% related to themselves, whereas moms are only 50% related to the baby, and half of the genes come from their father. And so that genetic gap means that they're not fully aligned in everything they want. The genetic conflict. Really. You see this in sibling conflict, right? So like parents are like, I want to take the other long, and kids are like, no, I don't want to share. These are terms of conflict. Alright, so it's also super complicated because both of these individuals have microbes that colonize them. And the microbes also have their genetic. Okay? So one of the things that's really interesting is during the weaning process, mothers start decreasing the amount of milk that's transferred to the baby. And inside the baby are a number of microbes. They're known as milk-oriented microbes. David Mills calls your other mom. And those microbes rely on milk to get alive. And they specifically adapted to digest mother's milk sugars that aren't available in like cow. Which means that, okay, have you seen Star Wars? Right? Remember what Obi-Wan Kenobi is? It's like a million voices suddenly cried out in our tummies. That happens to be the oriented microbes. There's no trust meaning in it, all of a sudden all their food. many microbes, mental microbes, can signal to our brains. They can release neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, things that activate our reward pathway, such that when they catastrophically die, all of a sudden, we've lost a ton of the neurotransmitters that make us happy. And then we've done a drug diet change. Like we're like, it's like January 1st, you're like, no more sugar. You're like me, eating a certain amount of sugar. Like, it's like a little ending or difficult. And I'll sit there and I'll talk to my neighbors. It's not the last week. But like, you know, we are. We're inside you. And we're talking to your brain. So this is part of these new areas of psychopaths, like understanding the ways in which our microbes manipulate our behavior by tricking our brains to be happy and they get what they want. So it's quite complicated. In my lab, in the integrative lactation lab, we are interested in all things. We look at the magnitude of variation from mother to mother or within mother compounds, the nutrients and hormones and microbes, stem cells and nerve cells. We then try to link that back to aspects of her circumstances. What are her life history trade-offs? What's her nutrition? What's her health? What are other aspects of her condition? How do those explain the kinds of milk she's synthesizing? And then we also attempt to link that variation. You're getting more certain nutrients, certain microbes, or certain infections. Are there differences in the baby cell? Obviously not. And we look at growth and development, behaviors within immune function, cognition, and microbial colonization. Because who wants to study some all these things that you understand completely? And we are that. And we make use of animal model systems. So what we've done research in recent monkeys, in rodent model systems, and dairy cows. Dairy cows are really interesting. So, most of my references. Has anybody ever gone to India or Southeast Asia and seen these guys? Be honest. What did you think about that? Okay. All right, somebody else? Do you want to say what you thought of them?
I thought they were interesting. I actually thought this was breastfeeding.
Awesome. All right. So, among primatologists, rhesus macaques have a really bad reputation because of penetrance. Like, they will cut you. Like, my postdoc mentor is missing half of a finger because of these guys. Like, they are known as, like, the, like, they are not playing around. They kill people. And I love them. They're so cool because they are 50. And they're the most widely distributed primate active humans. They have really variable personalities. Some are like less mean than others. And they do really good in all these different habitats. Right? So like humans, they're able to like make use of swamps at high altitude. They do great in urban areas. They really are successful in urban areas. They're what are known as a lead species. Like humans. And they share more features in mother-infant interactions. So just like mothers will talk to their babies and babble back and forth, so will rhesus macaques. You'll see moms and babies basically doing mother bees and baby talk back and forth to each other like humans do. We'll see periods of exploration when individuals want to like get out and check things out. And especially for rhesus macaque mothers, they can also grab a tail, so we get back, and not just have to grab a foot or a hand. We see them start to develop social relationships and they engage in lots of So there's three basic kinds of behavior in Northern California, outside of Sacramento, at the California National Primate Research Center. So this is a picture of a half. No, this is about a sixth of their enclosure size. And they live out in these spaces with social fertility signs a while. They're made of close kin, distant kin, and not. They have real complex, rich social life. They don't show any of the aberrations of behavior. The animals are household orders. Here's a thank you, Google Overlord, for this picture of the facility from above. So each of those is one of these big corrals, and we work with multiple ones in this room at different groups have different behaviors. And so with this population of terms, it's not capacity. Do we have any questions? Okay, we're going to get into deep. All right. This is the life cycle of a receiving cat, not to scale. And it perfectly mirrors ours. I go with the fetus and the infant, the juvenile, and their adolescent, adult, and then they get like real old, really early. And what you find is there are natural fertility populations, and just like in humans, where there's a natural fertility population, you see an initiation of the reproductive career, what's also called reproductive debut, in late adolescence, before full adulthood. In natural fertility populations, most women give birth to their first child before they're 20. And you don't reach full adult height until early 20s. You don't reach full skeletal density until late. Which means, remember back to our history theory, that the reproductive career is initiated while the mother is still developing. So there's maintenance, there's development, and now there's reproduction. These moms have to pay a lot. Now, in the recent cat, this is something where there are different things. It's an important difference. Recent cats have like 5.5 months pregnancy, but what's really important is they have a birth season. So unlike humans or gorillas or chimpanzees or baboons that can give birth all year long, recent cats have a breeding season in the fall and a birth season in the spring, and their infants are developing over the summer. And when we look at their infancy, we see at about 1 month they start to explore the world beyond their mother. First month they're just nursing. But 1 month they start to be like that. At 3 to 4 months, this is peak lactation, so they're primarily relying on milk. But this is a period of fastest growth before they have to start eating supplemental foods to sustain their growth trajectory. And then we see the weaning process play out from 6 to 10 months. Some mothers wean early, some mothers wean late. Just like that. What's really neat is that these 1 month and 3 to 4 months time points, we know a lot about what's happening neurodevelopmentally. So at 1 month, you see this huge flourish. You see this huge proliferation of cells. Same thing happens in humans. We have a huge amount of neuronal development in their brain forward. And then what you have is proliferation of cells and connections and pathways. And then, between 1 month and 3 to 4 months, we see a pruning back in the neurotypical individual. Same thing happens. You see synaptic densities and synaptic highways for electrical signals neurons to become refined and honed. The brain functions efficiently. This is neurotypical development. And so between 1 month and 3 to 4 months, this really important period of neurobiological refinement on when babies are going into birth season, mothers might be hitting the breeding season at peak lactation. And that's really hard. It's really hard to be at peak lactation with milk production and be conceiving the next kid. But recent cats that don't have to take an entire year off when they get pregnant. This means in the natural fertility population that they could have one or more fewer offspring than other females in the population. And it's that differential reproductive success when inheritable that shapes adaptations in our way of natural selection evolutionary process. So what we find is that there's a huge amount of constraint in hurrying up and getting this kiddo so you can pivot to the next reproductive step. So young mothers, as I mentioned, are paying for more things, maintenance, development, and reproduction. Because they are still right, and you will run into this. If you go into clinical practice, 1 in 6 kids worldwide, 1 in 12 kids born worldwide is born to a teenage mother. And that number is increasing globally. So young adolescent mothers represent a particular clinical case and in this requirement schedule nutritional support. So mothers that are still growing don't have the same resources. Their skeleton has been developing. Mobilizing calcium becomes challenging. Body source can be challenging. And in many locations around the world, babies that are too small are going to have really, really serious survival challenges. Even in the U.S., with all the bells and whistles of NICU care and everything else in care units, very small babies present a number of challenges. This basically tells us that babies need to be above a certain threshold condition in order to survive and thrive. So what you find then is that mothers themselves are smaller, and they need to get their baby to a certain threshold condition, and their babies are bigger relative to their own size. And this is something that people aren't really talking about in clinical practice. Right? So you'll see lots of stuff about babies that are under 1,500 grams, under 2,500 grams. And I'm always like, yeah, how big is the mom? What's their relative size? How hard does that mom have to work? So this is work from my recent attacks that show that the infants of first-time moms, that are adolescents or fruitivorous, so first pregnancy, first multivorous or multiple births, what you find is the proportion, like relative to mother size, the firstborn offspring are bigger, especially the sons. So, okay, I'll talk for like 5 minutes and then for questions. That's it, you're going to just ask questions. Okay. So what this means is that widely across mammals, particularly pregnant and including humans around the world, first-time moms are at greater risk for pregnancy failure, for premature delivery. They experience higher incidences of infant mortality. They never taken care of their own baby before. They're first-time moms, so they have a lot of steep learning curve about parenting. And their infants tend to be at greater risk for illness and they have slower growth. So this is something that we know is very well established. But what we've come to understand is that part of this is due to differences in the milk that these mothers are making. So in my recent attacks, what we find is that here we've got this is the area that in Kelly region, you have the first-time mom. In stage region, you have the experienced mom. And if you just look at the volume of milk they're produced, it's significantly lower. The first-time moms, they make significantly less milk. And that milk is not as nutritious. So here you have, it's not as big as it was, but you have, here's the terms of milk energy density. This is not fat, protein, and sugar that's present in the milk. largely driven by lower fat and protein content. So they are making less milk, and per unit volume of milk, it has less fat and protein. When we look at these two things together, so the volume, the grams of milk, and the energy density is the kilocalories per gram. What we call, what you can see here is the available milk energy that they make across lactation. And this is where I kind of want to, I'm going to end the talk here. This is a big important takeaway. The stage screen shows us that the multiparous mothers, the ones that are full grown, they're full stature, have experience, they are able to keep increasing the milk energy that they are producing into the breeding season. But the younger first-time moms are starting to come back down. They are experiencing a different lactation curve than our experienced mothers. This translated to humans, for which there's no comparable data. We don't have really done this in this way with humans. What this means is that aid into growth trajectories, those babies may be transition to different kinds of complementary foods at slightly younger ages. But there's no work on that right now. There's no systematic information about this in a way that can guide the clinical life with the nutrition and what are the best options. So if you are interested in pediatric nutrition, fantastic. So, ask me whatever questions you want. If I have slides about it from other parts that's not going to get to, we'll go there. And thank you for your attention. Your very focused attention. Your hour. All right. Yes.
Okay, so this difference we're seeing in the development between the preparis and the post-preparis mothers.
Yeah.
So, do you think that it's due more to the age of the mother, like the development, or is it also partly due to the fact of having another baby beforehand?
Those are great questions. Yes and no. And I'll explain that. So there's one paper from 1991 about CT protocol. And this was done on humans, and they compared the milk of mothers, first-time moms, were 26 or 15, or 14, 15. Teenage moms versus mid-20 moms. And what they found is that the mid-20 moms were making more milk. They didn't look at the nutritional content, but they just looked at the volume. They didn't control for body mass. So in my study, I do control body mass. So that difference means that per unit mother mass, the first-time moms are making less milk. Now, if you have more mass, you can make more milk. So mothers that are in their 20s are likely to not have the same magnitude effect as very young adolescent mothers. They have a pig things to make that we actually looked in the recent past. We looked at have you had this visual reading? We could look at mothers that had their first infant at age 3, which is about a 14-year-old human, or age 4, which is about a 16-year-old human, or age 5, which is about a 19-year-old human. Really look at that. And what we can tell you is the youngest mothers had the hardest time making milk. So, yes, part of it is their level of age group. However, primitive moms are generally always compromised relative to multiple moms, and that's because the capacity of the mammary to synthesize milk increases with each additional parent. There's additive changes within the cellular architecture of the mammary gland. There's cellular proliferation, and there's increase in the milk producing cells. There's also an epigenetic effect in the existing cells that make them better at making milk. Right? Right. And so to me, I'm interested in understanding what shape how breast milk is. And through that, we can motivate better support policies, health policies for breastfeeding, fertility policies, clinical models. Over 90% of women in the United States want to breastfeed, and they don't know what they're eating. They would like to initiate breastfeeding. And yet, far fewer than that actually exit the hospital or maybe breastfeeding, and very few of them actually achieve their breastfeeding goals. And that's because of societal obstacles that they encounter. And in that reality, there's this essential tension. You guys know there's an essential tension between recognizing for many babies, they absolutely rely on formula. Not everybody can breastfeed, not everybody wants to breastfeed, not every baby has a mother. And so for those babies, one of those intentions absolutely is creating a And this is a really part of the formula industry. Clinical products is very desperately behind any baby. But then you have commercial marketing that undermines health outcomes. Like, it saves babies, and then also and so that to me is a different set of questions. And I'd rather be able to say, like, here's what we know about milk. Formula is insufficient. Make them good. Here's what we know about milk. Get a milk over program and you're going to Yes.
My second question, your bar graph was explaining the difference in weight based on sex between first time and second or third.
It was just a full multiverse. So the mothers in this data set, they range from their second infant to their 18th.
And I wrote down the difference in infant weight compared to based on maternal age.
Oh, it's a great question. So when you run the regression in the national fertility population, like these guys, what you find is that 96% of the variance inherited is played by age. They're highly correlated variables. And because I'm interested, so age is just a number, but parity in the set has physiological experience. And so in terms of understanding the capacity to synthesize milk or aspects of skeletal development or calcium mobilization, things like that, so parity is a better predictor of these things than age.
Well, I was just, there's a couple of human studies that have shown that teenage actually skipping she'll get the nutrients development this over actually for herself, but with adolescent and pregnant, they're actually taking that for themselves because of that children taking the babies are now still healthy babies at long term. So I just was wondering.
That's great. So I looked at a long-term risk. And so I'll send that paper today to talk about how 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and 5-year-olds show different patterns of infant development and their capacity. There's one other question? Yes.
If the first time is less nutrition and less clinical, are there only
This is not absolute size. This is their relative size to the mother. So they're absolutely smaller, but in terms of their mass to the mother's mass, they're proportionally bigger. Once mothers achieve full size, like they're bigger. So their babies are that same kind of like to get them above that threshold condition is proportionally less.